Okay, it looks like this says that I have started. I don't see anything. I'm not sure what's going on with this. Oh, okay. Just trying to see what's actually going on my page and what is going on my recording. Okay, so I wanted to hop on today and show you this little table favor. It's made using the Easter Bunny stamp set. The punch I think is on back order, so I just made this without using the punch. So I just wanted to show you how I made that. Let me know if you can hear me or not. If you're watching, just say hi, drop a comment in. So we're going to get started. So again, we're using this Easter Bunny stamp set, and then we're going to be using the mini pocket envelope dies. So what I'm going to be using in here is this big one, and then this little tag here that has sort of the scallops around it. So what I wanted to tell you about using this die, especially the big one, what I used is the Country Gingham Designer Series paper. I've used a lot of this paper, so there's not a whole lot left. But when you are cutting your little pocket envelope, if you have some washi tape or something, and you can just sort of line this up with the side, you can just kind of line the die up to the side here and to the side here, and then just use some washi tape to sort of hold it in place as you put it through. If this is not going to fit in the mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine because it is wider than 3.5 inches. So hi there, Mary. Thanks for joining me. So you're going to want to use the standard size machine. And when you're running this through, of course you're going to want to use the plates that are for the thin dies. But what I like to do, because this has cutting and scoring marks on it, what I like to do is put the paper in with the side up that I'm going to have showing on my project, so that the score lines are going down into it, and that makes the score kind of fold a little bit better. You always want to fold kind of like towards where the bump is, and so this side is going to make the indentation, so it's going to make the indentation on that top side, and then the bump's going to be on the back, so you're going to fold that, so that'll work out properly for you. And then for the tag, I just used basic white. So those are the only two things we're going to use in there. And I went ahead and cut one of these just to work with. So one of the things about this is it's a little bit difficult to see the score lines, but once you start kind of bending it, you can see them. So we've got these tabs on that side and on that side. What I wanted to do was also fold this side down. So let me set that aside there. I'm going to get my trimmer. So what I did was use my scoring blade, which is this light colored one, and I lined up the side of this here up until these little what do you call them, these little scallops just kind of lined up with this little dark colored piece. So there's a indentation right here, that's where the cutting or scoring blade goes, and I just wanted to line that up like right next to where that indentation is. And then I'm going to take my scoring blade and I will score a couple times. Now generally, like I said, you're going to want to do it this way because you want that bump facing down, because you're going to fold that way. So let me go ahead and line that up here, and I'm going over it a few times, but I'm just doing it very lightly. So I've got my score mark, and so that one's easier to see. So you can see the bump is on the inside there. And then I'm going to just take my multi-purpose glue. And like I said, you know, with these tabs, it's easier if you fold it over. If you want to take your bone folder and just crease those down nice and flat, that works great. Oh yes, and one thing I wanted to remind you of to take a look at before you start gluing anything. I noticed when I close this pocket up that you can kind of see, it's very difficult, but you can kind of see the pattern from the inside. It's just slightly, just a little tiny bit, like maybe too long in the back. So what I did, you can use your trimmer for this, but it's very hard to me to get those very, very thin, like hair thin slices off. And we just want to take a very small slice, so we don't offer this anymore. It's just like a little photo trimmer, but it's a little guillotine cutter. And I'm gonna just put the edge of this little pocket just barely kind of overlapping there, and then I'll cut it. So you can see this is like a very, very thin slice. And when you're using the trimmer to get a very thin slice, it can be, it can just kind of press down into that groove that I was showing you. Instead of actually cutting it, it'll just kind of squish it, which you can still take your paper snips and just kind of trim it properly, but it's just, for me, it's easier just to grab that little deal. So I'm going to put my glue on the back of that, you know, where I just made that score mark that was equal to kind of the front. Then I'm going to put this glue on here, and I'm going to fold down this flap first, and you want to try and make sure that you don't get this glue overlapping so that it's going to actually like kind of accidentally hold your pocket closed. So then once I'm done with that, I'm going to fold this down onto the part where I put the glue. Sometimes I get a little too much glue there, but and again, you can kind of burnish this if you want, sort of get it all straightened out here. If you have a silicone mat, sometimes that can work nice to get it to, just in case you squish that glue out of there, so that it doesn't end up on your paper, on your grid paper. What I have is this little thing, which is an adhesive pickup. So if I get those glue goobers on there, you can see it just kind of balls it up and picks it up off the paper. So I tend to use that. All right, so we're going to let this sit and dry so that it's nice and even and flat. The next thing we're going to do is take that little tag that I showed you that's also in the mini pocket envelope, and we're going to stamp these. It's hard to see on here, but what I did was I took this little stamp here. It's like little blades of grass, and I think I left my ink pad. Where the heck did I leave it? So I used the was it soft succulent that I used, or mint macaron? Man, I'm just all backwards here. I think I used the mint macaron for this one, but you could use soft succulent as well. I think that mint macaron was one of the colors that coordinated with the paper. If you look on the back of any of the designer series papers, it'll show you. Usually I'll take a marker and write it a little bit bigger so I can see it, but it is balmy blue, so that's this blue color. Mint macaron, so that's why I use the mint macaron. Petal pink, which is this color, which is also in here. And then sweet sorbet, which is this color, but I didn't use that. You could if you wanted, but I liked using the more pastel colors for this. So again, what I did was ran this out from using the basic white cardstock. Got some more goobers on here. Let me get these off. And just ran these through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine to get this little tag. I'm going to go ahead and ink this image up, and I like to start in the middle. If I'm stamping a stamp that's like not long enough to go all the way across, I like to start in the middle and then stamp over to each side. So we've got that part of the tag done, and then I used the an Easter treat for you sentiment that's in here. So this has like, it's a new day, enjoy all the little moments, you're a friend like no other, hi. So I mean, you could kind of use this for like any kind of spring thing. You don't have to just use the Easter, but since Easter's coming up, I wanted to use that. So let me close the mint macaron, and I will grab the basic gray, was the other color that I used. That's what I used for the words. Now I'm going to stick my head in the way up here, because what I did when I put these words on here is I kind of made sure that they lined up with the top, so that they were parallel with the top of my block, so that I could kind of look over the top of my block and line up that block with the top of, you know, the scallops there, and then I knew it would be reasonably straight. Now this may not be super straight because, like I said, I was kind of leaning over. Alrighty, so we've got the pocket and we've got that. So while we're still waiting for this to dry a little bit more, I'm going to grab some early espresso cardstock, and I've got that right here. And then I'm going to take the bunny, and I actually stamped several of these at a time, but I took the bunny and used my Versamark ink pad. Let me grab that little guy here. And all I really need is the face, so I'm just going to, you know, ink up the top of this here. Just make sure I've got it inked up really well. If you want to use your embossing toolkit, we have an embossing toolkit so that you can have that under your stuff to catch your embossing powder. Another thing that comes with it is, this is our embossing buddy, and it will help you get the static off of here so that you don't have so much extra, I like to do it on both sides, but this way you won't have so much extra powder sticking to it. It kind of takes a little of the, what am I saying? A little bit of the static cling off of there. So this is the Versamark ink pad. So it stays wet just a little bit longer. If you're just using the ink pad by itself on regular cardstock, it will, you know, kind of soak in and dry after a few minutes. If you're using it on like a glossy or coated paper or something like vellum, it's not going to soak in and dry. And you're going to have to use like embossing powder or something over it so that you can kind of seal that in. But I like to use this, like I said, because it stays wet just a little bit longer. Now normally I would probably use my tray if I was doing like a whole piece of this, but I'm just going to kind of shake this over here. So you want to get that powder on there and then shake off the excess, and that's what this tray is for, is so you could shake off the excess into that, and then it's got this little screwed on little cap at the end that you unscrew that, and then you can just kind of pour it all back in there. So don't need to worry too much about that. The other thing that I like to do, and you don't want to touch this because it's just stuck on there with the moisture of the Versamark. The other thing that I like to do is kind of just flick the back of it. So I'm going to flick this, and that's going to help get off some of the other, and I don't care like if there's little bits around there and there, that's not going to bother me because I'm not really using that part of it. So I'll take my heat gun. I'm going to plug this in here. Our embossing powders now come in packs. So I think it's the black, white, and clear maybe that come in a pack together in the basics. Alright, I've got that plugged in underneath. So I'm going to turn this on. You're going to want to make sure you're not pointing this at something that is heat sensitive. And when you're holding it, you're going to want to make sure that you're not holding it at the end and covering up these heat vents. That's going to overheat your heat tool over time. So I'm just kind of waiting for this to warm up. We have two settings. You can use like the #1 setting if you're just like, let's say you stamp something in Versamark and you just want to dry it. then you could set it at the number 1 setting, but I have it set on the number 2 setting, so it's a little hotter, and I think the fan runs a little stronger. So we're just gonna put this over here. I usually, like I said, just kind of let it sit for like 10 seconds or whatever to where it warms up. And then you just heat up the front. I like to heat up the back as well, because the paper kind of can warp. And if you put the heat on the front and the back, then it sort of evens that out. So the next thing that I did, this is kind of cheating. We don't have these anymore. This is a 3/4 inch circle punch. I will look for you in the like layering circles and everything to see, you know, what we've got that's the right size. But this just fit perfectly. Like, I don't have to get the outline of his face or anything. It goes just like right inside where his little head is. And so I can just line that up and then punch that out, and then I got his little face. Okay, so we've got that and that. And then I put some ribbon on here and some twine. So this is just some gold ribbon. Can't remember, what do they call this? Gold shimmer ribbon, 3/8 inch. And then I also used some linen thread, and once again I'm going to show you, like, this is old packaging. It comes on a little spool now, but it used to be on a card. So I'm just going to set that there, but we still sell the linen thread separately. You could also use, we have a Baker's Twine Essentials pack. There's like 5 different colors in there, just neutral colors, so you could use that as well. All I did to kind of measure the ribbon was, I know it's going to go around the outside here, and then it's just going to have a little bit sticking out. So let's say it'll be about, I don't know, 7 inches worth of the gold ribbon. And then I'm only going to need a little bit of this linen thread to tie a knot around that gold ribbon. So maybe, I don't know, maybe 6 inches, just because, like, you could probably get away with a little bit less, but, you know, when you're tying it, you want to have enough that you can grab it. Okay, so now that I've got the linen thread in that, I'm going to set that aside. And let me put this over here with these. And then I'm going to show you, this should be dry now. So the side that has the scallops on it, this is going to be your front. So you can take your trimmer, once again, and make sure that you've just got the light colored blade up there. And so you're going to want to score on the front of this. Like I said, the front is with the scallops, and the reason is because you want those bumps on the back so you can fold against them. You always like fold against the bump when you make a score line to make it work properly when it's kind of breaking the grain of the paper. So I'm going to take this to 1 1/4 inch right here, and I'm just going to go over this a few times. You don't have to press really hard when you're using designer series paper. You want to be careful not to, you know, press too hard. So then from 1 1/4 inch, I'm going to slide up to 3/4 inch right here. And again, I'm just going to go over that a little bit. The last measurement that I'm going to do is just 1/4 inch, just this first 1/4 inch line here. And I'm going to go over that. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3 lines there. So once again, this one is 1 1/4 inch. This one is at 3/4 inch, and then this one's just 1/4 inch from the end there. Okay, so the next little part that we're going to do is we're going to fold these back. So, yeah, cat hair all over me. So I'm going to fold back that tiny one first, then I'll fold back the next one, and then I'll fold back that last one. Now, if you want to, you know, you can take your bone folder to help you get that, you know, creased really well. And then on the back of this, so we did the scoring on the front, on the back of this, just to help me to, I'm going to kind of roll this up and glue it, but to help me to do this in the same place on each one, what I did was I lined up this score line here, this first score line that we made, like here's the top of the bag where the opening is. So this first score line, I lined that up with this second line on my cutter, which is a 1/2 inch. And then I just took my pencil, my mechanical pencil, because it'll fit right down in there, and just made a little line. And I'm just going to use that line to help me line things up. Okay, so once again, this is the back of it. I'm going to just put glue on this little 1/4 inch strip. So I'll go ahead and put that on there. It only takes a little bit. I tend to get too much all the time. Then I get my fingers all sticky and then I get all grossed out. So this part is going to get rolled under. So you can just kind of take this and roll it. And what you want to do is that part's going to go down to get adhered, but if you can see that line, we're going to sort of line it up right with that line. And you can't get your bone folder in here to help press down, but if you use your paper snips, you can slide them in there and just kind of press down on, you know, that little piece right there. So and the thing about the glue is you can kind of slide it down, so it's like I could pull this, you know, away and see, okay, there's my line right there, and kind of slide it and get it into place where I want it. And this can be, it can help when you're doing this if you like have something like your stamping block or your ink pad, so that you can raise it up a little bit, raise up your flat surface that you're pressing on, you know, so that your scissors, you can have room to kind of hold your scissors there. So I probably, so you want to glue your pocket first, right? So you want to adhere that, and so that that has time to dry before you do this. And then once you do this, you probably want to let this sit for just a little bit longer before you start, you know, putting things on it that are going to stretch it, like these chocolates are going to kind of stretch it. So that's going to be the last step. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that glue to set, I'm going to go ahead and put my ribbon around there. So all I did was just wrap it around. Whee! And I'm not adhering this down yet, because I want to have room to like slide it up and down a little bit to put it where I want it to, you know, rest in its final place there. I'm going to put this on here with a square knot. So I just have it behind the two pieces there. And then I'll do the right side over the left side. This is always hard to do when you're trying to talk and hold things and whatnot, but let's see if I can get it done. All right, so we'll do right over left, and then pull that tight. And it helps if you can kind of pull that tight, slide it, you know, towards the side of the envelope. Kind of pull that apart, and then it sort of pulls that string down. But just keep that, you know, as tight as you can. And then we did right over left, so now I'm going to go left over right. So that's the left side. That one's going to go over the right. And then I'll pull that straight. So you can tie this in a little bow, but I just found it, you know, just like right offhand, but I found it easier to just go ahead and do the square knot. So it'll kind of hold it in place while I'm doing the little loops for the bow. So again, if you pull on the side there, you can kind of get that a little tighter. I found that if I turned it this way with the little tail down, then my bow sort of ended up where I wanted it. It's harder when you got a boo-boo and a big band-aid on your finger. So I'm just going to try and make a little tiny bow here, because I don't have a whole lot of string, and I just don't want it sticking out a whole lot. I mean, you could just tie the knot and leave it like that, but I just thought the little tiny bow was kind of cute. But this is proving to be kind of a difficult thing when I can't use my fingers very well. There we go. Okay, and then you'll just pull the strings back, and then just, you know, tighten that up until you get the little bow that you want there. And once again, you can sort of pull these two things to kind of tighten it in place. And then the last thing that I do, I'll trim these little extra pieces here and here. And then this one's already kind of at an angle, but I kind of pulled on it, so it's sort of messy. So you can cut these both the same way. I kind of like to cut them the different angle. Like one is at one angle and one is at another angle. That makes sense. So let me get those guys out of the way. So now you can see that when we're ready to put this on, you know, this still has enough play in it to where we can move it around to where we want it. All right, so before we put this guy on, we're going to want to glue the little face to the back of that tag there. So I'm just going to, and you can like measure and mark it and whatever, but it takes just a tiny wee bit of glue, and then it just overlaps just a little tiny bit. So, you know, kind of look for where his nose is, or that little line by his nose. And then you turn it back over and you can sort of dab that extra stuff off of there. If you get any glue, oops. Again, this is where the silicone craft sheet can help you quite a bit. Come on, there we go. It just really has to just, you know, the very edge of it is going to get glued on there, just so that it can kind of stay in place when you put your foam adhesive. So instead of using Stampin' Dimensionals for this, I used our foam adhesive strips because it'll like be a little skinny piece, and I found that when I glue this down, I like having that skinny piece there and that skinny piece there, so that I can then, you know, kind of move the ribbon so that it's in between those pieces. So what I did for this is I cut one strip for here, one for here, one for here, one for here, and then another one I put in the other direction there. So that's 5 strips all together. So there's 1, 2, well, you know what I should do is I've got 5, actually I've got 5 that I started here. So I'm going to go ahead and do 5, and I'll just cut right through them. Looks like I'll have the backing on them. Let me pull away the backing. Hang on 1 second. Sometimes when you just cut off these strips and they go flying or whatever, it's hard to like feel which side is the sticky side. So if I cut them all off to where the sticky side is facing down, then it's kind of easier for me to work with. So alright, so I've got one there, got 1 strip here, 1 strip here. That one wanted to stick to my Band-Aid. And then, like I said, this one is going to go kind of a different direction, right? So let's pull the little backing off, or the top. It's not really the back was sticky. Oops, that one wants to just peel off. Let me press it on a little harder. There we go. And then before I do this, I'm just going to let that sit there with the backs off of that, because really I want to put this on after I've put the chocolates in, so that the bend, it's got kind of a bend to it. So this is not, you know, trying to pull it to keep it straight. It'll actually still kind of bend out. So let me grab a couple of chocolates. Okay, here they are. So these are the Merci chocolates. I got a huge package of these at Christmas time, and I didn't use them. So when I was trying to figure out some kind of favor to make for Easter, I was looking at my candies and found these and thought, well, that'll be great to use them up before they get all stale. So what I did with these is I put them in upside down. So you're going to want to use your mini glue dots for this. You can, I think this one's, yeah, here's one that's already open. So it's nice to like put just like a little ribbon, tie a ribbon around it, and then it won't like come all unraveled and everything. The glue dots that we have now, instead of like being on the roll, like sticking to the roll, they seem to, it looks like they stick to the paper that's coming out. So these are a little bit older. But what you want to do, you can use your snips for this, or you can use your take your pick tool. But I'm going to put, this is going to be the front here. So I want the glue dots to be like the closest to the center. So I'm going to put that on there. And it's not going to want to stick super great to the plastic, so you're going to have to kind of press down a little bit to get it to stick. And then you just kind of squeeze this open, put the chocolates in there. Don't worry too much about that glue yet, those glue dots. And you'll want to kind of, you know, press them down as far down as they'll go, or as far down as you want them. And then just try to get the spacing about the same on each, to where they're both sticking up the same amount and they're both kind of the same angle and, you know, distance from the side and whatnot. And then once you get that all figured out, then you can kind of squish down on that adhesive. Come here now. It keeps slipping. Okay, so I want that one down just a little bit more. And when you press on these, be careful, because these chocolates have, you know, like that score mark. If you just squish down, then it's gonna break them, which doesn't really matter because they're still down in there, but I'm just telling you that's what's gonna happen. So once I get it to where the front, I have kind of squished it down in place in the front, I'm also gonna put some glue dots in the back. And it just keeps it to, you know, stay like kind of closed at the top. So I'll get one here, and again, like, since it's not going to stick to the plastic as readily, if you press down the paper, then the paper will grab it, so it'll come off of your paper snips there. Okay. Oops, I think I just broke that one. Okay. So now you can see it's got kind of a little, you know, roundness to it. If you want to, before you put this before you put the adhesive on this, you can take your bone folder and kind of, that's why you want to do it before you put the adhesive on, and you can take your bone folder and sort of give it a little bit of a curve, so that it will kind of curve over that a little bit better. But what I'm doing is I'm going to just figure out where I want his little head. I want it to just kind of barely stick over that that top there, and then I'm going to want that ribbon to kind of be right in the middle. So let's see, that looks good enough. Again, you want to be careful when you're squishing these things that you're not going to squish your candies. This one in the middle here where the little head is, I like to just take the bone folder and have that to press against. So there you've got that. The only other thing that you might want to do with this, if it bothers you that this, you know, ribbon can go up and down, you can take a glue dot, once again, and then just put it under here. You want to look under here and then get it under the ribbon and everything, right? And then you can kind of squeeze down gently right in the middle of that, and it'll grab. That adhesive will stick up against the, you know, the back of the, well, or the front actually, of the pocket, and it'll hold that so that that's not really going to go anywhere, right? So that is how we make our little Easter treats. Like I said, they stand up. It's a little hard for you to see from there, but they will stand like as a little place setting. So you can see the little curved part. And that's it. I mean, they're really pretty easy to make, especially if you start just kind of make an assembly line. You know, cut all your pieces and then glue all your pieces for the pocket envelope together. And don't forget to look and see if you want to trim that little extra, you know, kind of very skinny slice off the end of that before you adhere it. And like I said, that's pretty much it. Very easy. If you wanted to, you know, do some different decoration or color in the little pieces of grass or whatever, you could always do that. But I just wanted to keep it simple. So that's all I got for you today. I hope I can get this uploaded to the to YouTube. I tried to go ahead and record it. I've been having a little bit of a problem getting the getting my recordings to turn out in very high quality, so it's, you know, it can be difficult to see things. So I'm hoping that because I am recording this on my computer at the same time I'm doing the live stream, that that will help me to have like kind of a high definition video that I can put on YouTube for you. So anyway, like I said, this is the Easter Bunny stamp set that I used, and this is, if you want to order before the end of March, and use my host code, you can get some little extra treats from me. If you end up ordering the Easter Bunny stamp set and you want to make these, I will cut 10 of these little mini pocket envelopes for you from the Gingham, Country Gingham paper, and pop those in the mail to you. And I am a demonstrator in the United States, so I can only do that for folks in the United States. But my March host code, if you order the Easter Bunny set, or if you order something else and you still want to make, you know, something different with these little pocket envelopes, just let me know. But if you order at least this Easter Bunny set or something of an equivalent value from me before the end of March and you use this host code, then I will send you those 10 little pocket envelopes that you can use for whatever you want. So this is TXQNEHP7 is that code. So thank you so much for joining me, and happy stamping.